York County is so much more than just a stop for gas along I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories, just wanting to be told.
Welcome to another episode of 17 County Podcast, where we spotlight the people, projects, and progress powering growth across our region. From business expansion to community revitalization, we bring you behind the scenes of what's shaping our future. We're proud to recognize the organizations that make this podcast possible. A special thank you to the dedicated stakeholders investing in local impact. Central Valley Ag, Clutie Incorporated, Overland Ready Mix, Collins Aerospace, Meade Lumber Company, and Perennial Public Power District. We're also grateful for the continued support of our financial stakeholders, Henderson State Bank, Midwest Bank, and York State Bank, who help drive business sustainability across the county. Empowering innovation and reliability behind the scenes, we recognize K-Junction, OPPD, and Nebraska Public Power District. Your support fuels the stories we share and the future we're building together. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today's guest plays a critical role in helping our youngest learners grow with confidence, curiosity, and care. Heather Nunnenkamp is the director of Little Jewels Childcare and Enrichment Center, an early childhood program dedicated to nurturing children from infancy through preschool age. Under Heather's leadership, Little Jewels has not only embraced a strong research-based curriculum in ProCare, but also built a family-first environment where every child is known, supported, and encouraged. From play-based learning to developmental milestones, Heather is helping build strong foundations for York County's future, one child at a time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about what you do and how you got into what you do. So early education is a really hard field to be in. What led you into being interested in this career? Was it kind of always the plan?
It was my plan when I was younger that I knew I wanted to work with younger children. And so when I became a mom, I knew that I was going to do childcare. While I was doing that for like the first 3 years, I had a family tragedy, and so I did a career change and decided I was going to try medical billing and coding, and got into got my degree and did that for about a year or so, and found it to be kind of boring. So I was like, I really need to be around children, and that's when I got back into early childhood.
Okay, so you decided to make the switch back. Did you go back to being an in-home, or what kind of childcare
I started out to be in-home, and then when I had my last baby, she ended up having some medical issues, and so I stayed home with her for 3 years.
What made you decide to go back to work, and was it straight into early childhood education?
It was the medical billing and coding I went into after I had her. And then I decided that wasn't for me. And so then I had heard there was a daycare hiring for a director, so I applied for that and got that. And then ever since then, I've been in a leadership role in childcare in 2 different centers. And then I came to Little Jewels.
Okay. So when you look at your experience with your in-home versus your center, what do you like about being in a center that kind of keeps you there and doesn't, like, why don't you go back to an in-home?
Because I don't have to take I can leave my job at work, and it's not fair. At home, and I don't have all the toys everywhere. And
that's fair. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest hurdles to having an in-home.
Yes, and I have more flexibility. At home, you're by yourself. You can't, you have to find somebody to come help you if you have an appointment or something, whereas in the center, you have support. So
yeah, absolutely. So you were in those 2 different centers before you ended up at Little Jewels. And did you get a degree in early childhood, or what did that look like? What did the training look like for that?
I was taking classes in early childhood, and then I took a break and switched it over to medical billing and coding, and then I finally finished up my degree in early childhood because that's where I needed to be. So
yeah, that was a calling.
Yes,
it's the right place. So those first few years you were at an in-home. What was that like? I mean, starting that up, having your home not be your home anymore, having it be work, what was that like?
It was hard at first. My kids had to learn that they had to share their toys because when I was starting, I didn't have a whole lot. But as it grew, I ended up buying a house where we had a separate room for just the daycare.
Oh,
and
nice.
all the toys I had in there were just the daycare toys. So my kids were happy then because they didn't have to share their toys anymore.
Completely different end of the things. Now you're in a center. What was that transition like? Was it kind of awkward, or what was that like once you were out of your house, out of billing and coding? What was that like?
When I first started working in a center, I had 4 kids that were older, so they didn't really care if I was at home or not. My other 2 came to work with me, and so it was a good transition.
Of course, you ended up at Little Jewels.
Yes.
What made you apply there? What was interesting about it that drew you to looking into it more?
Just their faith-based atmosphere, and it was more of, like, when I looked into it more, it felt like more of a family center.
Yeah, so they really prioritized making you feel like
Yes.
you belong. Yeah,
Yes.
That's amazing. You kind of alluded to it. Have you always been in a leadership position when you were at all of your centers that you had worked at?
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How do you feel like your leadership has grown through all of those experiences? Or what do you do now that you wish you would have known in the beginning? I know, it's a hard question. I know. I like to put people on the spot. No. But, I mean, I can only imagine that going from, once again, having no staff to having people that you have to oversee and mentor and schedule,
I would say probably figuring out staffing.
Yeah, and childcare already has such a hurdle with finding the staff and keeping them, and I can only imagine. There's a lot of continuing education that goes into it. How do you make sure that you're current with that? How do you stay organized?
There's a program called Nectars, and the teachers can upload their trainings in there, and then it lets me know how many training hours they're at and so I can figure out how many more they need.
Oh, so that kind of keeps you on track.
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. And are your employees kind of responsible for doing their own training, or is there anything that you kind of help guide through? What does that
I
look
encourage
like?
them to look for their own training, but if I see something that I think's beneficial, then I'll let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone who may be listening to this podcast that's like, I think I want to go into early childhood education, but I'm scared. It's a big leap. Do you have any advice for anyone?
I think that if it's something that you're thinking about doing, you should try working at a center and see if it's something that you can do or want to do. Jumping right in and just saying you're going to go do it might not be the best route.
Yeah,
Because it
absolutely.
is not easy.
I do have to ask, are you guys hiring employees right now?
Yes, we are.
So if somebody's looking for that experience, wants to
Yes.
dip their toe in, they can contact you guys and see what you have open.
Yes.
Perfect. So obviously you have a lot of different experience within childcare. I mean, you've worked at in-homes, you've worked at centers. Little Jewels is a little bit different. So what was it like transitioning into that role of director at Little Jewels?
The transition into Little Jewels has been pretty smooth. The employees we're all welcoming, and we're all up for new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say you like the most about working with that age group? Because that's a lot of really little kids.
I just like watching them grow and learn, and I just really love small children.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm assuming that you work with kids pretty regularly and you see their families a lot too. Is there anything that you do to make sure that you're supporting not only those kiddos, but the families as well?
I just let the families know that I'm there if they need to talk to me, if they have concerns or ideas on what they'd like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that it's kind of a tricky question. I know that your day-to-day is probably always a little bit different, but what does a typical day look like at Little Jewels?
In the morning when the kids are getting dropped off, we gather in the front room, and we use that as a gathering and a welcoming to all the kids and the families. We eat breakfast in there as a whole group. After breakfast, we clean up and we divide up into our own rooms. And then the teachers have their activities and their planning that they do throughout the day in their own rooms.
At Cornerstone Bank, we are committed to providing you the best in banking products and service. With 46 locations throughout Nebraska, we are dedicated to serve you. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Today's podcast is brought to you by 104.9 Max Country, Cool 103.5, and Bear. Let's get back to the podcast. You guys just recently adopted that ProCare curriculum. What made you decide to go with that curriculum? There's so many different things out there.
The price-wise was reasonable, and also it covers all the bases of the early learning guidelines, and it follows the same structure as the most expensive curriculum out there.
Interesting. Kind of interesting how that works. How does it guide, there's so many things that go into the development of a kid when they're itty-bitty. How would you say it helps guide children's social, emotional, academic, all those development factors?
Well, it follows the early learning guidelines, which teaches them social and emotional skills. Academic, they learn their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. And
yeah. So when was this first implemented? Has it been a little while?
We just implemented it, and we haven't actually got into it yet. Staff is still learning. My plan is to have them all learning it and ready to use by August.
Okay. So I guess, how do teachers and caregivers implement it? Does it have lesson plans that they follow, or what does it look like?
It has pre-made lesson plans, and they just have to go in and pick which theme they like and what they want to use, and then they can post it on ProCare for parents to see and see what they're doing.
Oh, interesting. So parents can kind of follow along.
Yes.
That's really neat. So let's look at childhood or early childhood education as a whole. Why is it so important to have access to that high quality childcare for families?
Because I think children need a good start in life, and I think having the education and the quality of care that they receive is important to help them grow and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think Little Jewels kind of plays that role in supporting working families?
I feel like it's more of a family atmosphere. Everybody's kind of close with each other, and the teachers are really good getting on one-on-one with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many kids does Little Jewels serve?
We're licensed for 45, and right now we have about 20.
So there are openings if
Yes.
somebody's interested.
Yes.
Okay, and so let's say that somebody is interested. How do they get in touch with you to learn more?
They can look us up on Facebook, or they can look us on Google with our phone numbers on there too.
Okay, perfect. And of course, anybody listening, if you want to call York County Development Corporation, we can figure that phone number out and stuff too and help you with that. Now we get to go into a little bit more of the fun stuff, learn a little bit about you. Do you prefer coffee or tea to survive preschool Monday?
Coffee.
Do you have a preference on kind of coffee?
My go-to is Starbucks.
Of course. Good choice. Favorite children's book?
Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus.
Ooh, I don't know if I know that one. Okay, I'll have to look into it. One skill or trait you hope every child leaves Little Jewels with?
A skill would be their social and emotional. I feel like that's something that children are lacking as they get older, because there's so many tablets and phones out there that they don't know how to communicate. So I hope that they learn that one skill.
Yeah, absolutely. So important nowadays. Most chaotic or funny moment in your childhood career?
At one of the centers I worked at, we thought we would try those Orby balls that you soak in water. Yeah, that turned into quite a chaotic mess. Yeah. But it was also funny too, because the kids were really having fun with it. But
yeah, of course. Dream activity or feature you'd love to add to Little Jewels if budget wasn't an issue?
If budget wasn't an issue, I would really like to add walls and have each room have their own separate space.
All right. Well, that is all I have for rapid fire questions, which you rocked. So let's kind of look into future. I mean, kids are growing, kids are moving on to the next thing. But for Little Jewels as a whole, do you have any goals for the next couple years?
I'm hoping to grow the preschool program so that parents aren't looking outside of Little Jewels for preschool, because I feel like with the curriculum that we are offering, it would compare to the outside preschools as well.
Once again, if parents want to get in touch with you, they can just look you up on Facebook, on Google. They can find your phone number pretty easily through doing that. I thank you for coming. I really love learning about our local child care providers. I know you guys have a really, really difficult job. It's a lot of pressure on you guys to raise the littlest minds in York. So I really appreciate what you do, and thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome.
That's a wrap on another episode of the 17 County Podcast. As always, thank you for joining us to explore the business leaders, community champions, and transformational efforts shaping our regional economy. A final word of appreciation to our stakeholders: Central Valley Ag, Clutie Inc., Overland Ready Mixed, Collins Aerospace, Meade Lumber Company, Perennial Public Power District, Henderson State Bank, Midwest Bank, York State Bank, K-Junction, OPPD, and Nebraska Public Power District. Your investment doesn't just support this podcast, it strengthens York County's momentum in innovation, growth, and long-term resilience. Until next time, stay engaged, stay informed, and continue supporting the businesses and partners that make our communities thrive.